everyone, and welcome to Fathoms Deep, a Common Room radio production. I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive, and today we have a very exciting guest. Lauren Sarner, who writes about black sails for Inverse.com, came to talk with us about our Season 1 wrap-up.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yay. We are so happy to have you. I've been reading I read all of your Season 3 articles, and it was just so much fun for me.
It's true. The second that I started watching Black Sails with Daphne, she started sending me all of your articles. Like, read this. This is another smart lady who likes black sails.
Well, I think I might have said this is the smart lady who writes black sails.
Fair enough. The Lauren Sarner.
Exactly. So I was going to just introduce the format real quickly. And Lauren, did you want to tell us some, kind of how you got to this place of writing about black sails first?
I had kind of an odd path to the show. I got into it before I was working at Inverse, actually. To make a long story short, I had back surgery, totally fine now, but while I was recovering from back surgery, they were kind of marathoning the show, and I got into it. But because I was on all these pain meds, I wasn't really taking in what I was watching, so I had to watch it several times. And I kind of got sucked in.
Not a bad thing.
Exactly. Once I was off of the pain meds, I kind of got sucked in. And episode 5 of season 2 kind of made me do a double take and say, hey, this show is really interesting. And then I went back and rewatched the whole thing. And then at Inverse, we were kind of talking about TV coverage, and they were talking about how they wanted us to cover shows that we are enthusiastic about, because obviously you do a better job writing about a show if you are enthusiastic about it. And I said, hey, there's this show Black Sails that does not get the attention it deserves. Can I write about it? And my editor was like, well, I don't know. Sure, try One Piece. Go for it. And I tried One Piece, and everyone responded very positively to it. I was actually very overwhelmed by the reaction, because even all the actors were tweeting it. And then my editor was like, okay, you can write whatever you want about the show.
That's so great. That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then I was kind of like, you know what? I'm going to cover the shit out of this show, because other people don't, and the world needs to know how great the show is. It doesn't get the attention it deserves.
Absolutely.
I completely agree. Yeah, I'm blown away time after time with this show just continually upping the ante, and it gets better. Every episode gets better, and on rewatch, it gets so much better too. And I was hearing nothing. I had crickets about it. That's one of the main reasons, because when I first saw, the teaser trailer they did for the series, I was interested. But the fact that I never heard anything about it and no one will shut up about Game of Thrones made me think, okay, well, there's just no reason to check out this show. But it's been getting such a disservice. It's amazing, amazing writing. My favorite writing on television.
Yeah, mine too. I think we've been pretty clear on how much we like it. No, and it's great, and I think there's something really fun about this. I love also that you're covering it and we're podcasting about it, and I love that it's a show that one might be led to believe is a show geared towards men. And I feel like I found that a huge part of the fan base is women. A huge part of the really dedicated fan base to this show is women, which is so fascinating and deserved.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like it's kind of 50-50, but I feel like I think you're right. A lot of the fans who talk to me on Twitter do seem to be women, which is interesting.
So maybe it's the fan base on Twitter, which is also kind of what I'm most aware of, to be honest. And I think that's probably how I found you. I probably found you because a cast member retweeted one of your articles, and then for me, I don't think I ever told you this on Twitter. For me, my fun game for myself was during season 3 is I would watch an episode, and I think season 3, and we'll get there. Really, each episode had a thesis statement, a really clear one. We've been doing themes all through season 1, and my fun game with myself was always to watch the episode, decide what the thesis statement is, and then see if you and I agreed on it when your article came out. And we generally did, and it was just really fun for me. I love that, and I can't wait when we get to season 3 to talk about that on the podcast. How clearly each episode has, a special theme. There are themes that run throughout that we'll talk about now, but in season 3 there really is one theme that's so crucial to each episode. That'll be fun.
Season 2 is like that.
Oh, season 2 is like that too. That's true. I guess I started thinking about it more in season 3. I think you're right. I've just been rewatching season 2 in advance of us covering it. And I think you're totally right. And
I'm so jealous because I haven't gotten to rewatch any of those yet. I got it the first time through, 1, 2, and 3. And then since we're doing the podcast and I want it to be a little more fresh for me, which is great. It's been a lot of fun. But it means that season 2 and season 3 are really murky waters now. I can't remember what happens and when. So it's going to be really exciting to go through those again.
Yeah. It's very exciting for me every time. I can't wait for your sake that you get to watch. Well, next week we get to start season 2. Okay, but now about season 1. So what I wanted to do for our wrap-up episode was we thought to mostly go over themes, like really structure things about themes that we have watched all through season 1 and the ones that we know will carry on through seasons 2 and 3. But before that, I wanted to have us ask Lauren, because we have Lauren here, a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So I was going to ask, your first thing is your articles. You've interviewed much of the cast, and I wanted to know if there was anything that didn't make it into your articles that you wanted to tell us and our listeners, so they'll be able to have that bit of fun.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Unfortunately, some of it is kind of spoilery because I did interview them mostly for season 3.
Right.
I'm trying to think of a non-spoilery to say this. Like the outtake from the Luke Arnold interview was about. I mean,
if you don't have anything, we'll just skip that question.
Oh no, this isn't. I can talk about this vaguely. A situation that Silver is in at the end of season 2 that is an ongoing situation. And he was telling me a little bit about how they film it, and there is a man on the crew who has that situation.
If it's about the leg, we talk about that. Don't worry about it.
Okay, yeah.
Everyone knows. Everyone. Yeah, we've chosen not to treat Treasure Island as a spoiler thing.
Okay.
So people know that Silver is a one-legged man eventually.
All right. In that case, yeah, an interesting thing that Luke Arnold said that unfortunately didn't make it into the article was that there is a man on the crew who has an amputated leg, and sometimes they use him for those shots.
Oh, wow. Oh, like when it's from a distance, you don't need. He's kind of like a body double in a way.
That is really awesome. I like that.
Yeah,
wow, that is a really interesting bit of behind the scenes stuff. Andrew, that one was for you.
It'll throw me out in other stuff because I know in Grey's Anatomy, Dr. Robbins is supposed to have this prosthetic leg. And all the time she's hopping around and running around that hospital in high heels. And I'm like, there's no. Why, are we just pretending that it never happened anymore? So I like that they're taking their time to make sure that it's as realistic as possible. Because it does. It throws me out in Grey's.
Yeah.
And then this one is just like a fun little tidbit. I guess when Zach did his audition, he wore almost the same outfit that Vane wears. Like he said, he had his hair in that way and was wearing it Henley.
That's great.
He was talking about how like Vane is, I guess, only on 7 pages of the script in the first episode, but he said when he read that script, he knew right away who this guy is, and he was talking about how that's kind of rare for a character. But he was like, I know this guy.
Oh, I love that. I think it does show up from the very first minute that he really does know this guy. Like, I feel like we know Vane from the very beginning. He's not at all shaky in his characterization from the beginning. That's so cool.
And I actually have some behind the scenes notes from Toby Schmitz. I can read them now or at a later time in the podcast, whatever you want.
Oh, we would love them. Go right ahead. We want to hear what Toby Schmitz has to say.
He said, I remember Zachary learning to throw knives in season 1. He's incredibly adept at picking up a new skill. He came up with that Riggs in Lethal Weapon coin thing and just made himself do it in about 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh. That's a baller.
We love that coin thing.
Let's see. I really enjoyed Jack's outrageous all-in exchange with Mapleton. Like his risk with the pearls, we see a gambler who clearly gets off on the rush of hefty odds. Unlike that Hal thing, the Chaz thing was not scripted. Indeed, when it came to
Chaz. We love the Chaz
That's
thing.
so great. Okay, go ahead.
Cheekily, especially for season 1, on reflection, I just said Chaz again, and it stayed.
That's cheeky.
That is great. I love that so much.
He said Toby Stevens is an outstanding whistler. When we first met, yes, that's just a fun.
Sorry, this is so much fun. So wait, these are notes that he wrote for us?
He was just like, sure, I'll send you notes.
Oh my God. Toby Schmitz, if you're listening, thank you. This is so much fun already.
I mean, he said they're like general notes, but no, he said he enjoyed your podcast.
Oh, yay! He enjoys our podcast, Liz.
I know, it's insane.
He said, when we first meet the Rangers in season 1, they have been out there doing what pirates do at sea. They don't know it, but their off-screen previous lives, all salt-crusted and grimy and wind-blasted, is at an end for quite some time. I like how animal the Rangers are when we meet them before life pushes them into more complex waters. Civilization reaches back to them in some way and grabs them. They're off the map when we meet them, and that unruly, surprising madness is always available to them. Zach and Clara and I knew we had to have a whole history right there, ready to access, unseen by the audience. We worked hard plotting their imagined adventures and how they all met, how the triumvirate operated. One of the benefits of our relatively isolated shooting situation is that we didn't nick off home at rap or on weekends. We sit around and talk about actor stuff, our characters, how to stay true to our imagined realities, as each new script revealed, and so on. This is enormous fun for me. As soon as a new script comes out, we are on the phone to each other, and it's like, get over here, let's have a drink and discuss what we're going to do.
Oh, I love that, too. I love that. I mean, you could tell from Twitter that the three of them are friends, and that's just really, really, really wonderful. That's great. I love that.
That's awesome. You see something really similar with like Shakespeare festivals or summer stock productions where you have all the actors are living together and, you know, a lot of times it's like on a college campus or, it's like summer camp for actors. But it changes the game because you're around the same people all the time and you can see those relationships deepen. That's awesome. I like that. And I suppose it's one of the things that they have going for them with shooting on location and so far from home, because it's true. You don't get to unplug and take that break from your character in the same way that you would if you actually, you know, you went back home to your own bed, your own refrigerator, your own friends, your own TV. Like you're in a certain space that's for this
Absolutely. World. I guess 3 more little observations he has. He said, Luke Arnold is the lexicon. He knows every page of Treasure Island, and he is the one we all turn to remind us what happens in Black Sails. He's so good at remembering every detail. He's one of the best players of the Game of Bones. This is what we call the never-ending game of guessing which of our characters is going to die, how, and where. Kind of like Clue.
I love that, too.
This, he said, Clara and I really know our argument had to sound like the bickering of a long-term boyfriend and girlfriend situation, even though we just met, really. We talked at length about how to pull that off, then jumped right in. Clara Paget jumps right in. Her access to bravery is enviable. And then this might be my favorite of his observations. Zach really pushed for Vane to have a dog.
Really? Wow, that would have been very cumbersome to the whole production, I'm sure, but that would have been pretty awesome.
See why they did not do that.
That makes me so happy. I can't even tell you. The idea of Charles Vane with like a golden retriever is the funniest thing I've ever heard.
I feel like it kind of would have fit his character.
Actually makes a lot of sense. I think a dog would have been pretty perfect. I mean, I'm sure it would have been a pain for them, but he seems like the kind of person who would really value a dog. I can totally see that.
I mean, he's certainly not a
No,
cat
I don't
guy.
see him as a cat guy. No.
I see him with some big, like, ratty-looking mutt that he's, like, very kind to while he's off murdering people.
Who's vicious to everyone, but actually just like
and also because he values loyalty so much. So it would make so much sense to him that he would be a person who really relates to a dog. That like he would have this special relationship with this creature that they could be 100% loyal to each other in this world where there's not that much loyalty. Okay, now I kind of wish they had done
it. That does make sense. Oh, man. Oh, can you imagine the episode where they kill Charles Vane's dog?
Oh, man.
You know they would.
It's also, I don't know, do dogs do well on ships? Oh, they must. There must be dogs that do well on ships.
I don't know.
Sure, why not?
Yeah. All those cologne ads can't be wrong.
I don't know.
Right?
Or maybe the dog could be the last one standing, and that would be like the final shot.
Right. Then we would move on to Treasure Island, having killed off all the Treasure Island characters, but there's a dog.
Yes.
Oh,
man. That is too fun.
That would be awesome. Oh, my goodness. Well, again, thank you, Toby Schmitz. That was lovely. Let's move on to other questions for Lauren. We did prepare some questions for you. Liz, did you want to ask a question?
So I did have a question. Lauren, if you were in charge of a Black Sails spin-off show, what would you most want to see explored?
I think a Ranger prequel.
A Ranger prequel. Okay. The life and times of Charles Vane.
Oh, yeah, like that would be
the
fun.
Ranger crew and what they were up to before the events of the show.
I like that.
How Jack and Anne.
Is Charles Vane your favorite then?
Kind of, but it's interesting. Yes. Okay. Yes, I would say him and Silver and Rackham and Flint.
I know. That's us too. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. That's what we end up doing. My order's a little different, but it ends up the same kind of thing.
No, I have a lot of love for Charles Vane, but what's interesting is that I took a little while to warm up to him. I did not love him the first time I saw season 1.
Oh, interesting. I liked him. My husband and I, every time he was on screen, he'd walk back off again and we'd be like, I don't know why, but I like that guy. I like, obviously he's a douche, but I like that guy.
Oh, no, this is one thing, because you said we usually do agree. One thing we do disagree on is that his season 1 plot line with I call it just Lumberjack Island, and the resurrection,
yes.
That plot line did not quite work for me. I don't feel that bad saying it because I actually wrote about it in my first interview with Zach before I knew that the actors were wonderful about tweeting everything. And then he tweeted it, and then I actually felt terrible. So I was like, oh no! I wasn't criticizing the acting, just the plot line, but actually I feel terrible to this day. But
no, I can understand that. The thing that I love, and again, we're trying to be careful about not spoiling future stuff. Mm-hmm. I love that he was a slave. And I love the implications of that later on. I agree that the actual bit in the episode perhaps was weird, and resurrections are, problematic in a story perspective. I think we more joke about that than like love that as a storyline. But I do love that he was a slave, and I do love that he needed to overcome something. That he seemed so strong, but he had something that was still keeping him from feeling like he was as strong as everyone else perceived him. That's what I liked about it.
Oh, absolutely. I do like his slave backstory, and I actually think they do a much better job of getting at it in season 3, not to spoil anything, but they do periodically revisit it, and I thought that was kind of a much cleaner way of approaching it than what they did in season 1. I feel like the writers kind of refined how they wanted to tell that story.
Yes. They do that a lot on this show, I think, and I really respect that. You can see them refining things as they go, and they do it very gracefully, I think, most of the time anyway.
They do it gracefully, and I feel like they do it while still respecting what they did. I mean, they definitely get better as the show goes on. I mean, as much as Liz and I enjoyed covering season 1 and found really great things, we do recognize that season 1 is not the strongest season. And yet I feel like they really, what people see on rewatches is how much the first season really is foreshadowing so much of what's going forward. But they do a better job with it later on while still respecting the story that they already told.
Agreed.
Okay, so I guess the last question is, do you have a favorite moment from season 1, Lauren?
I would have to say episode 3, that meeting between Flint, Gates, Jack, Vane, Eleanor.
Yeah.
And when Gates keeps pulling Flint out to yell at him, because that's kind of the first time we really see the characters all interacting. Because before that, we had seen Flint and Vane glare at each other, but we hadn't really seen them in a room together for a prolonged period of time. So that scene really gave us a feel for their dynamic. And it kind of perfectly captures the tone of the show, and that it's just really fun to watch and hilarious, but there's also a lot of layers to it. There's a lot going on there. And I just love Charles Vane's line in that scene too at the end of it.
Yes, he's really excellent in that whole scene. It's true. All of them are.
Yeah, all of them.
It's a great one to watch because of that. They're all saying so much. I mean, you see so much about each character. You're right. Having them all in a room was the only way to do that, to really see how they interact with one another. And it was great. It was very well done. And you're right. They still maintain that playfulness too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I love the Vane and Jack dynamic, but I feel like before that, at least for first-time viewers, it definitely took me a little while to get their relationship, because there's kind of a lot going on in the first few scenes, where there's that whole thing with Mosiah and then the pearls. There's kind of a lot of chaos surrounding their relationship.
Yes.
So that scene was kind of the first time we just see them with Jack kind of, as you say, managing Vane, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that scene.
And it's a great illustration of the roles of captain and quartermaster, which really, which they show us, in the first few episodes without really laying it out for us in some sort of wordy description. They really show us through the interactions. And it's funny, like I now feel like I know that dynamic so well from watching the show so many times, but it was nice to remember how they managed to show us what that dynamic is in the beginning. And that scene was a great moment for really understanding what the roles of quartermasters are vis-a-vis their captains. Yeah.
And it's also because we never really get the backstory for why Vane and Flint are so at odds.
It's true.
I mean, we don't really need it, though, because by that scene, we kind of see that it is a fundamental personality clash. Yeah. Vane is kind of at heart. He's really kind of just an anarchist and is kind of a freedom fighter pirate. And Flint is, the nation building kind, and Vane is very much live in the moment, and Flint is planned for the future. And I feel like that scene is kind of the first time you really see those two ideas brush up against each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's totally true. And that is something that will carry on through the different seasons.
Oh, yeah.
In a really cool way. Oh, I love that. All right. So, Liz, did you want to tell me your favorite? I don't know what mine is,
you
actually.
Don't think on
Liz,
that.
Do you have a favorite moment? I know I should have prepared one.
Favorite moment of season 1? I do, because I was invested in the show, and I was going to get through season 1 no matter what. It was something my husband and I could watch together. You were, right there nipping at my heels, so I was going to finish it out. But the moment when I really got excited and was like, yes, this is the show I want it to be, was definitely the first time that they got the ship up to 7.5 knots. Like that whole thing, out and on the ocean and the sails full was awesome. Right. Like the chase, all of it. Like that adventure on the high seas finally kicked in, because it had been, adventures in Nassau and mumbling around on the beach, and that was less fun for me. So, but that's my favorite part still now. I think about that all the time. It was just so cool, and it still has made me just feel like, okay, I've got to get on a ship. I've got to get this done.
That's so true. Yeah, Lauren, something you may not know about me is that I had been in love with Black Sails, but wasn't so vocal about it until suddenly I was on Twitter, and all of my Twitter friends started to make fun of me, but also started to watch Black Sails.
She did.
Pretty much harassed everyone until they watched it. Okay, well, while you were, I actually have 2. Can I do 2?
All right.
And the funny thing is, I mean, my 2 are so incredibly different. One of them is actually the 2 interactions between Jack and Mapleton.
Oh.
The one where he takes over the brothel, and then when he fires her. I agree. That's just glorious. And so that's like my fun favorite. And then actually my other favorite is in the last episode is the conversation between Gates and Flint the night before.
Yeah. It's so good.
It is so good. And so that's like the two sides of me, the fun loving side and the side of me, the true side of me that just loves the tragedy, loves the internal conflict that characters go through. That's what I really, really, really come to the show for. And that scene is it for me.
That scene also might be one of the only times we see Flint joke around.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If not the only time.
Right?
Right. Well, they do. They laugh over Dufresne being quartermaster, but that's brief.
True.
But yeah, this is where he actually seems kind of joyous.
Like somebody you could actually go out and hang out with. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Before he kills you the next day.
Oh, yeah. There was that.
Whatever. He's fun for a little while. All right, ladies, are we ready to go over some themes?
Definitely. Fire away.
All right.
Ready the guns. Sorry.
All right. This is our full compliment. Okay. Who wants to do their Flint impression?
What's my Flint impression? What more do you want from me?
I know, Liz, man, you're the one with the Flint impression. I got to say. Okay, so let's start with what I think is the biggest theme, and my favorite theme is the theme of civilization is coming.
Oh, yeah.
So this was the first theme, and I feel like this really does. I mean, it fades a little bit, but I feel like, obviously this is a theme throughout. And this includes, in my eyes, the question of who are monsters.
Yeah.
And then shame and gossip and the monarchy. So, Lauren, what are your thoughts? I know that we, knowing that this does continue, but we can't talk about seasons 2 and 3.
Right. I know.
Which
is so
I know.
Hard.
It's hard.
Yeah. It is really hard.
It's like they're just squeaking open the door onto what the show is even about. Yeah.
Exactly. That's so true.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in many regards, season 1 is kind of an extended prologue, especially because the show, the way they do it, each episode is, a little like a chapter in a book.
Yes.
Yeah, so season 1 I kind of view as a prologue, especially because of the pacing. It is, some people do accuse it of being slow. I think it's more deliberate, but it definitely is a show that teaches you how to watch it.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Because it's kind of, the pacing is very different from other shows. At first glance, it kind of seems like, oh, is this some Game of Thrones knockoff? But obviously, you just watch for a little bit, and that's not the case. But so because it is a prologue, it does kind of bring up all these things that become very relevant later. Like, Flynn's little breakdown in, episode 8? Episode 9? Yeah, when he's kind of unraveling and...
No, that's episode 7. That's the second to last. That's when he's talking to Gates in the little cabin place.
Yes. So this idea, I feel like the idea of civilization and monsters is we only kind of dip our toes in season 1, but it's kind of a prologue.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and it is a looming threat.
Yes.
That I feel like in the beginning that threat is obviously very focused on. The first episode is really all about that in some ways. And I feel like it's looming over that. And I don't know. I mean, I guess that's supposed to be the Flint unraveling starts to make us question how much he's really actually focused on that. Do you all think? Like, that was the moment when you start wondering, like, he seems so pure in the beginning that he has this thing about monsters and the threat of England and civilization, and then in episode 7 that starts to unravel because it starts to feel more personal.
I don't know if I connected those two necessarily. Go ahead, Lauren.
Oh no, I was just going to say it's kind of interesting to see how each character approaches the threat, whether it's Eleanor who basically ignores it and she says, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing and pretend this isn't happening.
Yes.
Vane kind of barrels through it. He says to Eleanor, there's a world out there outside the islands. That's very much his approach. Jack is kind of just, I guess, strategizing his way through it as if it's a chess game. So it is it's a taste of how all these character arcs will be going forward. But if we are only in season 1, we don't necessarily grasp that yet.
Right. I mean, I feel like everyone else is more in the same place as Billy in the first episode, that like everyone other than Flint is really, and perhaps other than Flint and Miranda, like everyone else is just living their reality of Nassau and the world of Nassau. I mean, Vane brought people from outside, but everyone else is just like thinking day to day and how they can take care of their own business. And Flint is the one person who has expressed some larger threat, something outside of the day to day. And I think that really sets him apart as a character. Like that kind of shows, whether it's justified or not in people's mind, like shows why he's so willing to sacrifice people and stuff, like, because he made it clear from the very beginning that he has some larger goal. And it seems like Miranda's aware of that goal, whether or not she agrees with his approach. Well, I guess we know she doesn't agree with his approach to it, but they seem like kind of outsiders in a way, because even though they're obviously, well, she seems like an outsider all the time, but even though he's fully integrated in there, he does have his eyes towards something outside. And Billy seems like the only person that he really let into that. I mean, I guess Gates probably he had let into that. I guess we could assume that Gates always knew that he had some larger plan. But it seems like nobody else, like everyone else is like ants just kind of doing their thing. And Flint, you know what I mean? Like they're like taking care of their business in the world that they're aware of. But Flint's kind of the person outside who has some larger view. Again, correct or not, whether his strategy is smart or not, or actually about that or not, is a different question that we'll start answering later on. But that was the feeling I had, that he had some sense of this larger world that the rest of them maybe weren't really thinking about.
But it's interesting because as a viewer watching for the first time, you are also not really thinking about it, because we don't really see the real threat of civilization until more in the future of the show. And we don't even know Flint's true motives until a little into season 2. So we are also kind of flying blind a little bit if we're watching it for the first time. And we're just kind of trusting whenever Flint talks about his grand plan and the threat that it is there. Or we're deciding, do we trust this guy?
Right. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I think that was an interesting way for them to already make him be only somewhat trustworthy to us. I mean, I think when you first watch it, you're spending a lot of time deciding whether you do trust this guy or not. And, and listening to what the crew has to say and listening to what other people have to say. And I love that. I love that it's just this big question mark.
It kind of puts the viewer in the position of his crewmen.
Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. And we had talked about that. We had talked about before Billy goes overboard, of Billy being the viewer surrogate, like our surrogate in the story, because we watch Billy trying to make sense of this. He seems so actively trying to make sense of this the whole time, because his morals mean so much to him.
Well, to me, the most interesting part about that theme, actually, of that civilization is coming, is those times when we saw civilization being so cruel and so unjust. Like when we first saw the slaves on the Andromache. And there was just this idea that, okay, this is what civilization is. This is the height of civilization at the time, is human slavery. And that's before we even get all the payoff that we get in season 2 about how civilization has victimized Flint personally. And even when the man first comes, and I think it is that same captain, but when he first comes, or the captain of the Scarborough, Hume, is that right? Who comes in to talk with Guthrie, yes. And he's going to strip everything from Guthrie. He, as far as he's concerned, Nassau is, it is owned by England. As far as he's concerned, he can do with it what he wants. He will take what needs taking, and it seems that, I mean, to some extent, they're following orders, but I mean, when you're out there, you're the only one who's captain of the ship, and then here in Nassau, to a point, you're making the decisions and you're making all the calls. And it's this. I mean, it's the same. It's for some reason he has this idea that he has justice and right and good on his side. But what makes that justice and right and good different from this ideal that Flint has held up to what Nassau can be?
So the next theme I really wanted to talk about, which is something that Liz and I have talked about a lot, and Lauren, I'd love to hear your thoughts, is the nature of power. And I have a bunch of things under that. But we talked a lot later in this season about Eleanor, about Vane's view of Eleanor as power that just is. And I think we can combine this with the idea that Liz brought up of shifting sands, of like how people get power, tactical thinkers versus people who think about people and relationships and emotions. And we've watched so many power upheavals already in 8 episodes. I mean, we watched Flint start with not exactly a mutiny, but like a challenge on his power, and we ended with a mutiny. And so let's first talk about the power of captains and storytelling, and how captains tell their stories and convince their crews to have faith in them.
Well, I'm trying to think. Vane, I guess, we only see him with his former crew for like 2.5 episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
But when we begin the show, he kind of, in a way, is power that just is, because he clearly has a lot of status. Mm-hmm. We don't really know how he got it, but we assume that, you know, his crew has a lot of loyalty to him. Unlike Flint's, which is interesting. And then when his crew gets ripped from him and he has to start over, he does it, as you were kind of talking about in that episode, in just a very genuine way, just imploring these men. Whereas Flint is kind of, I don't know if I'd say the opposite of genuine, but he definitely is.
He's kind of the opposite of genuine, though.
Yeah, I mean, we love him. Yeah. We say this with all the love in the world, but I think the opposite of genuine would actually be pretty appropriate. Yes.
I mean, he's genuine, as you said, with Gates, he's genuine, mostly.
Mostly, yes, that's true. That is true. Mm-hmm. I mean, Gates did say, like, you know, sometimes you just talk at me and I pretend that you're saying things that are true. Yeah. But they have that understanding, like they have that level of intimacy where they kind of get the game, you know, like most relationships, like where we understand whose role is what in each relationship. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So let me ask a question now. So we know that Flint is a good storyteller. We established this in the first episode, and storytelling, this is something both Liz and I have loved very much, is that storytelling is established in the first episode as a way to gain power, right. a way to sway people. So the question is, I mean, we know that all pirates essentially are telling a story of their own pirateness, right? So we don't need to go into that so much. That's kind of established from the very beginning. So my question about captains is, we know that Flint uses storytelling when, you know, he kind of lives on this. He lives in this place where he's like almost about to lose them all the time because he's really stretching the boundaries of their faith. And Vane seems to just have their faith. So do we think that Vane is using some sort of method of power other than storytelling? Or do you think it's his source of power is some sort of storytelling that existed, like you said, in this prequel that we would love to, or that you would love to see before the show starts, of the Ranger experience? I
mean, Vane has never really been a huge talker out of all the characters. Yeah. He's kind of a man of action. So I would say, yes, he is a storyteller, but he tells his story through action. Like, the men just see what he does, and his story kind of builds that way.
I like that. Yeah.
I like that too. And I think...
Well, and I think we're informed of that just a little bit when Eleanor talks about how, I don't like the way you run your crew. They're animals. And so there's this idea of this viciousness and this chaotic environment that surrounds him that is a part of the fear that he strikes. Like when the flag of Captain Vane goes up, anything could happen to you. You have no idea what these men are capable of.
Oh, that's true. That's very true. That's interesting. Liz, we should more in season 2. I feel like we should really spend time comparing the two of them as leaders. Like, I feel like, I love talking. We talked a lot about comparing Eleanor's sources of power or lack thereof or gaining of versus Vane. But yeah, I think looking at the two of them as leaders is so interesting because Flint, as we know, has kind of a paternalism and uses storytelling, and Vane has a purity. I mean, he does.
Yeah. Well, when he takes that fresh start, when he goes to, what did you call it? Lumberjack Island? I think I did. When he goes to Lumberjack Island, as Lauren said, we're stealing that. He does. He starts with this. He starts out right in the beginning, doing the same thing you might expect Flint to do, where he says, I know of a place where we can do this. I just need this many men, and then he stops and he says something truer, something that's more sincere. That is. I mean, it sounds lame to say from the heart, but that's a rhetorical device, that appeal to emotion. Flint will use whatever rhetorical device he can get his hands on, of course. But Vane, that's what he has. Like, right now, he's had everything stripped from him. And what he has left is this gut feeling that I know who I am. I know what I can be if I just can get the resources. It's very different from what Flint does, but it's certainly no less effective.
No, it's true. Like in that moment,
then he storms the effing fort and takes it, which I always forget. Which is a baller move, Vane. Baller move.
No, but even like we said, in that situation where he actually potentially undermined his own purpose because he had to speak the truth to what was going on in his emotions about that situation. That it
was a big risk.
Right. Exactly. Because he couldn't just stand there and be okay with the slavery and the the bearded man that I always forget his name. He ended up jeopardizing his life and jeopardizing his own goals. That's interesting. All right, well, let's definitely focus on that in the future. So, so now that we did the two captains, let's talk about the two quartermasters. What thoughts do we have about the difference between Jack and Gates? Wow, that's actually almost an inverse, no? What do you all think about Jack and Gates?
It's interesting because we've always talked about Jack in the way that he's similar to Silver. But we haven't really, because of course they operate so much in the same way. But to see him, because that's really his counterpart is Gates. And what did you think about the two of them, Lauren, in that in your favorite scene when they're talking for their captains?
Well, Gates, when he kept on yanking Flint out to yell at him, he was very paternal and very much just kind of like almost like a principal leading like an unruly student.
I think that's the perfect description of their relationship.
And the way Jack is with Vane, I mean, first of all, it's kind of natural since they're more similar in age. And also, I feel like we don't really see it as much in season 1, but we come to see just Jack really looks up to Vane. He really admires him.
Yeah.
And so their relationship is more kind of like teenage boys in a locker room a little bit, like when he's giving him a hard time,
Lauren, I really like you.
Okay, I have a question now for my two readers of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Lauren, I don't know if you're aware of this. Like Liz sorted all of the characters at some point in our process.
I have my Hufflepuff coaster and my Black Sails coaster that I'm using right now.
So my question is, Flint, Lauren, just so you know, Flint was the harder one to sort, but I think everyone agreed in the end that he is Slytherin, right? Is that what we all agree?
Yes, he is.
Yeah. He might have been a hat stall, but yeah.
Okay, so my question then is with the quartermasters, because I'm coming at this with a theory about how they're different from each other, even though they're both busy managing their captains. That's that is their job. So Rackham's definitely a Slytherin.
Disagree.
And
Lauren nodded though.
No, what do you think?
Are we gonna fight? I'll fight you.
Oh, do you think he's not a Slytherin? Oh, I want to hear this.
I would say I don't think that Jack is a Slytherin because, first of all, if he is a Slytherin, he's very, very bad at it because right now, what has he got? A brothel and 68 prostitutes that don't listen to him and a girlfriend who's pissed. I mean, he's not working his Slytherin vibes well. However, I do think that he is a Ravenclaw, that he's got all of those, like, it's all about the cleverness and the wit. What is it? Wit beyond measure is man's greatest treasure. I think
you
he
have
probably
ruined
recites
my...
that.
I was going to say, you convinced me with the slogan.
Yeah. No. Okay, but you've ruined the train of thought I was going with, so I'm not... But, no,
sorry,
it's okay.
Not sorry.
No, I remembered afterwards that you had done that, and I'm the one, of the three of us, I'm the one who's least qualified to even start this conversation, so I'm not sure why I did.
Are we doing Gates now? I want to do Gates now.
Well, okay, so that was what my question was. Okay. I feel like Gates and Vane, actually, even though we would not sort them as the same thing. I'm going to assume. Did you say that Gates was Hufflepuff?
If I didn't, then I mean it. Yes, he is definitely Hufflepuff. Yeah, I totally, because Billy Bones absolutely is. But yeah, I always knew that Billy was, but I don't know that I had thought about Gates. But thinking about it, yeah, valuing that the loyalty and the fair play and justice.
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So this isn't
gets along well with others and wants to, be a peacemaker. Yeah, Gates is 100% Hufflepuff all the way.
Okay, so wait. So my new direction with this is that now, if we take the two captains and the two quartermasters, we now have all of the Hogwarts houses.
Oh my gosh, we do.
And I don't know what to do with that.
It's like
Liz,
the Hogwarts crest of piracy. I need something that represents that in my life. I don't know what that thing is, but I need it.
That is not the question I wanted to ask, because I thought I had sorted them incorrectly with my totally bad knowledge.
But no, we've got them. That's it. That's everybody. Yep. Because Vane is definitely Gryffindor. I mean, I don't think anybody could argue that. Vane is Gryffindor.
Right, Lauren, do you agree that he is Gryffindor?
Definitely.
Okay, so the next thing, the thing that I really love to talk about that I thought we were going to talk about in the nature of power conversation, but I still want to talk about, is the concept of shifting sands. I think for me, it's a really huge moment at the end of episode 8 when Max talks to Eleanor and she talks about how Eleanor taught her this great lesson to not let anyone get in the way of her ambition. Mm-hmm. And so I really wanted to talk about, like, both how much some people's positions have changed. In particular, I think Max and Silver are the two examples of people who really started at the bottom and have worked themselves into a place of much more significance in the overall story and in the society. And also in general, like, just how tenuous people's positions are. So this also ties into our theme of underestimating people. And we saw a few situations, or all the situations, basically. I feel like Silver's MO throughout this has been to be underestimated. And I feel like in the beginning that was an intentional thing for him, because he thought that he could be slippery. He thought that being that he could get by on charm and just, kind of smiling at everyone and using his blue eyes and being slippery. And I feel like we watch Silver learn over the span of the 8 episodes that actually what he needs to do is be useful.
Yeah, I think that's a really accurate assessment. I remember when I first saw it, being surprised when he runs in on the scene of Flint with Gates's body and then immediately just starts helping Flint. Yeah. Like, he doesn't even pause.
Right.
Because he knows at that point what he needs to do is just get on Flint's good side and stay there.
Right, exactly. And help Flint. I mean, he needs Flint. He needs Flint to actually be there still, like, be the captain and be effective. And I think he did the same with Eleanor. Like, when he was alone with Eleanor, he did the same thing. He basically just kept asserting himself until she recognized him as useful to her.
Sometimes it's hard to reconcile, like, trying to remember my experience the first time I saw the show versus, like, my experience upon rewatch.
Yes, absolutely.
Silver and Vane are the two where both of them I really didn't like in season 1 when I first saw it, and both of them are probably the characters I have the most love for going forward. Like, Silver is so great, but in season 1, I remember I did not really respect him, actually, until I think the end of season 2.
Right.
And I think that's the same of a lot of viewers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what the writers were going for, even. I think they wanted him to take a long time. And that's part of the big story that they're telling is how did Long John Silver become the only man Flint ever feared? Right. How did this happen?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and they're taking their time telling that story because you're right. It's not until the end of season 2 that we're starting to kind of say, okay, this is a respectable person that I might be able to trust in any level at all. Because I think you're right. Even when he does come running in and he sees Flint, holding Gates in the death grip, I think I called it, he's immediately just trying to patch things up, fix the situation because he needs that gold. That gold is like a day away. Right. He's got to get to it because he's almost there.
Well, he does the same with Dufresne. Like the same thing he does once he decides to be useful. He does the same thing with Dufresne that he did with Eleanor, where he basically says, stop. Be rational.
And think about this.
Look at the situation. Okay. Be aware of what our goals are. And also, I see no problem. I mean, we try hard not to spoil seasons 2 and 3, but I have definitely gone back and I don't think there's anything wrong with pointing out stuff about characters in season 1 that maybe I didn't notice or you, Lauren, wouldn't have noticed the first time you watched. But those are significant things as long as you aren't spoiling. So you know what I mean? Like we've taken the approach of pointing them out.
Absolutely.
Without saying where they lead to. And I do think in that, if you look at it that way, there is a real progression of Silver's, also, again, being aware. We've just chosen to be aware that, most people or many people know of Treasure Island, at least in passing, and anyone who doesn't, it's a really old book. So we're not treating that as a spoiler. Like it exists.
Right. Yeah.
We know that these characters are going to where the place that they're going, even if all you've ever seen is Muppet Treasure Island, Tim Curry. But you know that they're going there. So I do feel like, I feel like already Silver is going to be, and I have no problem saying this, Silver's going to be one of the most interesting character arcs.
Yes.
Up through, through what we know up until the end of season 3 is just his character arc is phenomenal. And I think we are already seeing it in season 1. I really think if you even look season 1, the first episode where he's just trying to kind of talk his way out of everything. And then by the end of the season, he's trying to talk his way into stuff.
That's why the shifting sands thing you talk about also applies to the viewer and our perceptions of the characters.
Oh, I love that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, because we start off, as I said, nobody really likes Silver in season 1, and then he turns into this really awesome character. And then if you go back and rewatch, you're kind of remembering your old dislike for him, but kind of layering your new like for him over it. Yeah. So the shifting sands thing is very much part of our experience watching the show as well.
Oh, I love that. That is so true. And that's why we've been really encouraging people to just watch through, like not wait for us, but like watch through and then start over again. It's so true. It's just, when you rewatch it, there are so many layers that you're experiencing, and you're right. Shifting sand really is part of our experience. So let's take that now to Max, who's the other person I feel like, started out really low, and we're really seeing, by the end, just like she says to Eleanor, like, look at me, I was nobody, and now I'm a madam and I have allies. And what is similar in her approach to Silver's, and what's different? Like, I think there are similarities and differences that are really interesting about how the show looks at character. Lauren, what do you think are the differences between the way the two of them have managed to take advantage of the shifting sands?
Well, I think the main difference, not necessarily in how they take advantage, but in how the viewer sees them. And this gets into actually a little bit your next section about the women of Black Sails and how viewers see them, but not to jump the gun.
Yeah. No, please jump the gun.
Let's combine it.
Go right ahead.
We're going to have to talk about Max and Eleanor. Yeah. So let's put it all together. That's fine.
Because Max is a character that, as someone who writes about the show, part of what I do is kind of monitor what the fans are saying. And she and Eleanor are not necessarily the most liked characters among the majority of the fans. And I do think part of it is that she has a lot of similarities with Silver, but we see Silver through Flint's eyes and Flint through Silver's eyes. And Max does not have someone like that, someone for her personality to kind of brush against and to see her through other eyes, you know, for someone to bounce off the way Silver does. And I think that's the main difference in terms of viewer perception and why viewers kind of understand her less and kind of take to her less.
That is so interesting.
See, that's very interesting, but it hasn't been my experience necessarily, because I have, like, as soon as she and Jack first start with the brothel together, I do see them in that same kind of Flint and Silver light. Like, they are, for me, they are pushing each other forward, and they're changing the way that I see each other character, because Jack was much simpler for me when it was him and Anne and Chaz and Noonan's, you know, that was just like, it was a very simple box to put them in. And as soon as you add Max into that picture, it all gets much more complicated. And staying with season 1, we're just beginning to see that. But even when he has right there in the beginning, when he first encounters her and says, "I don't know what's more attractive, your beauty or your intelligence," and you see him being thrown by that. He's not used to having someone as smart as he is. That's right there in his face. He's used to having that blunt instrument of Chaz and the quiet mystery that he understands of Anne. And this is someone entirely different who challenges him in a new way. So, I mean, and the same for Max, too, I think. I think that Max sees this young, basically a stray cat, come in and take over Noonan's while she's gone.
Just call Jack a stray cat.
Hey, Calico Jack. Ba-boom. Ching. Anyway, so... But yeah, so she comes in and she sees that Jack has taken over here. And I think that's one of the things that helps her remember, because Adele comes into her room, right? And says what a mess he's making of things. But she has this idea, if this idiot can wander into this place and make it his own, I, who know every in and out of this place, could absolutely make this mine. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
It's like, to me, those two are very...
No, but I think I'm going to split the difference between what both of you said, is because we watch the interaction of Flint and Silver like pretty much almost from the first minute. I mean, the first episode less so, but it's really a very intensive study of these two and how they're kind of working out their roles in relation to each other. And we end the season with what's, you know, Flint has been forced into a partnership that Silver was trying to create from much earlier on, and Flint was so resistant to. We see a lot less of Max and Jack having a partnership, which they end up in as well, but we have a lot less actual screen time of them as partners. We're going to get
that
more.
Is very true.
So that might be more also extrapolating a little bit. But yeah, let's get into then the question of the women. I mean, this has been Lauren, I'm positive that you've experienced a lot of this without even looking for it. We have also, like, Eleanor and Max really have strong reactions. We've had in both directions. Like, we've had listeners who really cannot stand, especially Eleanor, less so Max. We have had listeners really come to Eleanor's defense. We have been a little bit more critical of Eleanor as a character. Liz and I think, are pretty much on the record of being full-on 100% Max lovers. We've gotten a little pushback from listeners who like her less than we do. So let's discuss that. Let's discuss, I mean, that is related to the nature of power. Like Lauren said, it's hard to separate those two questions. What do we think is going on here?
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot. I think part of it is that, as we said, season 1 does have some flaws. And one of the flaws, I think, is that it does, in the first few episodes, seem... I mean, look, I don't know that much about the writer's room, but you would kind of see the first few episodes and you would not think there are necessarily many women in the room.
Right. Yes.
Whenever I recommend the show to friends, I always say it's really good. It's a little slow, but it, gets better. Charles Vane's storyline doesn't make the most sense in season 1, but he's great. I promise you'll love him. And the female characters, at least those two, the writing is a little bit iffy at the beginning. Like, these are the 3 comments I say to people when I'm recommending the show to them. So I think that's part of it. And I think the other part that rubs people the wrong way is that, at least going forward in season 2, I think it's just unfortunately a function of their place in the narrative as the 2 non-pirate characters.
Yeah.
They are, pacing-wise, their scenes are the ones where we are taking a break from usually exciting action to catch up with.
Say the good stuff. Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, kind of, yeah, a little bit. So I do honestly think that's the heart of it. Like, people are like, oh, these are the scenes where not much is going on. Whether or not that is true, I do think that is the heart of, people's issues with them.
Oh, that's so interesting. I mean, for me, I've always, I love the politics. I mean, I love the action. I love the ships.
You love the politics.
Liz is in charge of the ship love, and I'm the one who loves the politics. So maybe that's why they've been more fun for me, because I feel like they are very integral to the politics. I mean, Max less so in season 1. But it's true. I mean, I think Eleanor suffers very much from her first episode. We've gone over that. Other people have gone over that. Like,
that was a train wreck.
Right.
That is some of the worst television I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think.
And the other thing that's the worst
introduction.
I'm
pretty
serious,
bad
because it's like Stars. The show I had watched before this on Stars, there was only one. Well, I guess it's not true. I saw a little bit of Outlander, but the only other one I had seen, I even forgot what it was called. But it was very similar. This woman walks in where all these men are eating and drinking, jumps up on the table, lifts her skirt, and pees all over the table in front of them.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
It was supposed to be this idea of like, I don't know. I don't care. I don't remember. But because immediately I was like, ouch, what is happening? This is how this is how a male dog asserts dominance, not a woman. What is happening? So just really weird. And I guess this was another one. This was Eleanor Guthrie pissing on a table.
No, I guess because like Vane is one of the more popular characters, and I think it's partly because he is the most authentic character. He's so sincere, and so I think part of why viewers react to Eleanor is that she does not come across as authentic. Maybe because her initial presentation did feel like a female character presented by male writers. You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
And well, also, that's just her personality. She's not a particularly authentic person.
That is very true. Yeah, I don't think she knows how to be.
But it's a combination of those two factors, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, and it's interesting. I mean, it's a hard topic. Like, I do think that they do a really good job later on with female characters overall, including Eleanor. Again, Max for me works from the very first minute. For me, Max is like...
Me too. I really loved Max. I'd love to hear what you thought from the beginning, Lauren.
I think it's a little... I mean, you two touched on this a little bit when you were discussing Eleanor and Max's relationship and how it's kind of one of those elements of the show where we just kind of have to believe what's told to us because we don't really see much of it.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, are they in love? I don't know. You were kind of examining that scene. And I also took that away. Like, are they in love? I'm being told this, but I don't know. Especially because Eleanor was paying her. I was like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Right.
And this gets kind of into spoilery territory, but I guess Max's path in season 2... Max and Jack are both the characters where we wait until season 3 to get their backstories.
Right. That's true.
Yes.
That's a good point.
And Jack, it almost doesn't matter because he's so fun and his personality is so out there. I never feel like I have trouble reading him. Whereas Max, because I don't know her backstory and because her modus operandi is to manipulate people, for example, a certain character she forges a relationship with, I didn't know that she had authentic feelings for this character until in season 3 when they break up, if that's not too spoiler.
See, I feel like, okay, we don't need to talk about who that is. I feel like that relationship is actually established. I just was rewatching season 2. I think there is a moment in season 2 where that relationship really is, you see the caring there. You see the like she wants to protect this person and cares for that person.
Yeah, but that kind of caring is different from the kind of caring that we're supposed to believe.
And I along with some other viewers, have a lot of love for this character, so I kind of felt protective. Like, oh, if Max is manipulating this person, I don't know about Max.
I'm really pissed. Yeah, and I think you're right. That's why maybe Eleanor gets some flack too, because I was thinking even from, and especially from a female perspective, if you really love Charles Vane, you really want someone better for him than Eleanor Guthrie, and he just cannot get over her.
Right.
So that might be part of why she gets some of that flack too. And that's one of the things I said about Miranda also, is that, and it's so interesting to me that we never hear anything about Miranda.
I really love Miranda and Anne. I don't know if it's, one of my theories was that the writers were maybe approaching Anne as if she was, like, writing her as if she was a man. I don't know if that's true, but I never have a problem with her presentation. I remember I just loved her from the get-go, maybe also because she is Anne Bonny.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. Mm-hmm. See, and I always felt that Anne Bonny was very two-dimensional, and I had trouble. I mean, it took such a long time for her to be a real character for me, whereas Miranda, from the moment she turned around at that harpsichord and told him to take off his boots, was just compelling to me. There was something about her that I was just interested in and wanted to know more about her. And of course, the fact that they shrouded both of those women in mystery. We had, this idea of who is Mrs. Barlow that everybody was repeating like a refrain. And then Anne Bonny was literally shrouded. I mean, we almost never saw her eyes. It was just like this big hat and this saunter down a street. And while I was always interested, I felt like I spent a lot of season 1 saying, when are we going to get to Anne Bonny? Is she just an extra? I mean, is she like, you know what I mean? So I was really glad when we finally did, of course. And it was interesting how that happened too. But when we saw her on the beach tending to Max is when I finally thought, okay, now we're getting a character.
Absolutely. And for me, Max didn't have much depth because I didn't know her backstory, and so could therefore never really read whether she was manipulating people. And she does get it in season 3, but by then it was like, okay, we're only finding, at least for me, I'm only finding out who this person really is 3 seasons in. Yeah. It's like too late. It's too late for me to feel invested. Like, I'm already invested in, Flint, Silver, Vane, Rackham, so... I mean, every show with an ensemble cast is going to have characters who are more popular than others,
That is true. And I was just thinking, Lauren, too, that I probably had it working against me that I did not know that Anne Bonny was a real pirate. I did not know that she wasn't fictional. So I was just like, who's this woman with the swords? Why are we doing this?
Right. It's funny. I'm going to be like, we're not going to come to any clear answer with this because I'm now going to say that
that's good.
Of all of them, Max was my favorite. From the beginning, like that, I remember, and maybe it's because I have a soft spot for people with broken hearts. I don't know. I believed that Max.
Yeah.
I mean,
she was a kicked puppy,
right?
In the beginning.
Exactly. I believed that Max loved Eleanor. I guess. I mean, I said in the podcast, I actually believed that both of them loved each other, but that Eleanor was just too ambitious to follow that through. Yeah. I believed Max from the beginning. I loved her for being a person who loves. Like the thing that you learn about her first is that she loves deeply, and I believed that. I never thought she was trying to manipulate Eleanor. She was trying to do this whole crazy caper with the pearls to make a life for them, and I totally bought that. And so I kind of started with that place with Max, and so anything she did afterwards, like. I understood that she's manipulating people, obviously. I mean, there's no way not to see that in Max, but I knew that deep down there's this core of a good person underneath that. So for me, like, it's a terrific juxtaposition of her with Silver for me, because I don't believe in the beginning that Silver has the ability to care for people in the beginning.
Right.
And so I felt like that was a really neat juxtaposition, is that Max is a person, the first thing we learn about her is her ability to love.
Yeah.
And later on, we learn her ability to manipulate and rise. And so that's why for me, Liz, remember when we were talking about the season finale, like for me, that moment on the bridge or whatever, no man's land with Max and Eleanor, for me, that's such a heartbreaking moment. because that's the moment where Max is either saying or pretending that she's kind of given up this caring for people over ambition.
Speaking of Max, sorry, one more little section of Toby Schmitz's notes.
Get more
Toby Schmitz.
No, because there's a little section about Max. He said, Jack and Max circle each other wonderfully in the show. Jess and I are both amazed and delighted how much we got to do with each other, how pivotal our dynamo was. I really dig doing our scenes and how they turn out. They would both pass a lie detector test, swearing they're not fascinated with each other, yet they become a genuine, functioning, imperfect three-person relationship. It's not an out there situation, it's very human.
You guys, I might be a little bit in love with Toby Schmitz. Is that okay?
I know, seriously.
Is that okay, Toby?
Yeah, I mean, that we've talked about that. We've talked about that with Jack and Anne. I mean, I think the three of them are kind of our view of humanity, of like basic, well, and Miranda too, but like they are the most human feeling people there. You know, Eleanor, whatever, Flint, crazy town, and, you know,
crazy town.
Sorry. I love him. You know, I love him. I love him best of all. But the man is, you know, he's living.
He's a little bonkers.
He's a little bonkers. Yeah. I love him. He's amazing. He's powerful. He's, you know, just such beautiful acting. But the character is, you know, a little out there. And Jack and Anne and Max feel like real people to me. I think that's something really beautiful.
I completely agree. I love that. I'm going to have that in my mind now forever. This idea of these of Jack and Max circling each other like lynx, like these cats with their tails up, saying, "No, I'm not looking at you. Are you looking at me? No, you're not looking. No. Are you though? Are you looking at me?"
Oh my God, I cannot wait to talk about them in season 2. I really cannot wait to talk about them.
It's going to be
great
too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so should we move on to another theme? I wanted to talk about how people help each other. We have different characters who show themselves trying to help other people, and characters who do help other people, and how they do this differently. Do you want to start with Anne, or like we could compare Anne and Flint? Flint, I see as somebody who has like a big idea. Without looking specifically at individual people, versus Anne, who doesn't have, as far as we know, some big philosophy about how to help humanity, and yet really helps Max.
That's very interesting, because you're right. Flint, his judgment is completely clouded by the fact that he has this ideal set up in his mind as this answer, like the perfect crystal gem that he can hold up, and and it's of course related to so much of his backstory, but it's so fixed in his mind's eye that he will plow through everyone and anything to get to that point. And Anne is doing the same thing. I can't believe the position she puts Jack in. I can't believe that she does that so quickly. And just know, because, you know, and she even says, well, I knew that you'd choose me over them. Like, I knew that you would forgive me, basically. And therefore, I dragged you behind me into this bloody, muddy filth with killing 8 of our brethren to save this woman who I feel bad for, who I feel something. Obviously, I mean, by this point, we're seeing that Anna's feeling something pretty deep for Max that she does not understand. And it's clouding her judgment every bit as much as Flint's is clouded.
Okay, Liz, I just have to say, I love that I framed this as this versus this, and thought they were coming at it totally differently. And yet again, you totally schooled me. I love it. I love that you're like, you take a different approach, and I totally learn from it. Like, I was so sure that I was framing this as like how they were so different. And you're right. They did actually, there are similarities in what they did. And I'm going to have to think about that. Okay, Lauren, meantime, what do you think about those two things? This is just another moment where I end up learning so much from Liz. Okay, what do you think?
I never really thought about comparing Anne and Flint. That's interesting. I usually compared Anne and Vane, because I think those two are very similar. They're both kind of very pure pirates, and they kind of say what they mean, and there's not really anything like, super manipulative going on. Neither are manipulators. Yeah. They're just very pirate-id. But no, that's interesting.
I get that. Okay, it took me. All right. Yep, I like that.
Pirate-id, which is like way cooler than regular id.
Well, yeah.
But
also
no,
much more vicious and cutthroat.
I love how both situations kind of sketches out a picture of a very deep history of them doing that. Like, this might be the first time that Anne and Jack are in this very specific situation as it pertains to Max, but we get the sense that Anne has done things like this to Jack before, and he's gone along with it.
That's a good point. Yeah, we do.
Oh, that makes so much. So when he said, darling, I'm disappointed, like, he was just like, oh, dude, again, seriously? Here we are.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I took from that. And Flint, too, like, he has this long history. Because so much of this show is kind of what's between the lines, and, like, a lot of the histories of the characters we have to kind of fill in. And so I feel like in these particular scenes, specifically when people are trying to help people and other people are reacting to that, that's when we get a lot of the kind of between the lines history.
Oh, that's so interesting. That is not at all where I thought we were going with this question, and I love it. Both of you took it in a place that was way more interesting than what I was asking. That's fabulous.
And I was just wondering, too, if maybe, you know how Anne always says, fuck you, Jack? Maybe Jack's fuck you, Anne is actually, darling, I'm disappointed in you.
See, this is why we need a Ranger prequel, because I want to know who started the fuck you. Was it Charles?
I know.
Was it Jack?
Totally
was it Anne?
You need to know where this fuck you Jack thing started. Because we're already like, what are we, like 3 episodes in, and he's like, yeah, fuck me. You know? Obviously, you say this all the time. Oh, see, now I want to know if that's a thing that was actually in the script or something the 3 of them had agreed on, that's just what they say, that they just constantly say, fuck you, Jack.
That
would be that would have been a great thing for the 3 of them to agree on, because it makes so much sense for the 2 of them to always say that to him and for him to just absorb it.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Great. I love that. Okay, well, I'm going to try to bring us to the question I was trying to ask, even though I love your answers that were brought in all sorts of new directions for me to think about. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about paternalism.
Oh, this idea of father knows best, you mean?
Yes.
Like, listen and follow me, the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Exactly. So, like, obviously Flint is the epitome of that. So he's kind of the extreme on one side of, like, I know what's best. I don't need to include anyone in my decision-making, even though it affects all of their lives. So where do we see other people in this? Like, he definitely tried to sway Billy to that direction, and Billy went there a little bit, and then Billy also railed against it. Gates also, I think Gates bought into it more until he did finally rail against it. Where do we see other characters in terms of this? Like, do we see anyone else showing paternalism, or is this something that we just see in Flint?
I keep going back to Miranda and that weird porch sex with Pastor Lambrick.
I agree with you.
What are you doing? How can you think that this is helping anyone?
Okay, so
you could see,
so maybe that's
disappointed, right?
Flint and Miranda trait, and that might make sense that the 2 of them, we still don't know their backstory. We've had hints of it, and other people's version. Richard Guthrie told us the gossipy version of it, but So is that something special to Flint and Miranda? This kind of paternalistic approach. Could we say maybe Richard Guthrie has this? Although I feel like we never quite... All we get from Richard Guthrie is that he's a snake and we don't trust him and that he's scheming. But do we ever find out really what Richard Guthrie's trying to do? Like, do we think Richard was actually... We know he undermines Eleanor. Do we think he was trying to undermine Eleanor for her own good like he presented it to Scott?
I don't think so. I don't think he cared about Eleanor at all.
I know. This is also, I'm like, I can see Lauren's face. I'm like tempting you to spoil. I know. It's hard. Sorry. From a season 1 only perspective.
Sorry, I told you I would have a hard time only talking about season 1.
I know. It is hard. It is hard. Yeah.
Sorry, Lauren. We've gotten good at this. It's hard. It's hard talking about
it. Does take getting used to. Also, because season 1 is the season, like, I've watched season 2 and 3 like a million times each. Yeah. Season 1 I've watched the least amount of times.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just ask you totally randomly. I know I just asked this paternalism question, but Lauren, I'm so curious. What's your favorite season?
You know, that's a tough one. I was originally thinking season 3, but I actually think maybe season 2. They're so close.
Yeah.
And season 3 does have many episodes that are kind of better, but just as a whole season 2's construction, just the way it's constructed, it's just like a perfect piece of storytelling.
I know. See,
perfect.
For me, season 2, it's because of the emotion. I mean, I think that season 3 is objectively better. But
it has better kind of like epic scenes.
It's a like pirate show. Like, yeah.
Well, and there's certain things that I can't talk about. Like, there's certain arcs that I feel like in season 3, like, just were so solid. But season 2 is just where my heart is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like...
I've been so curious where you stand on that, because I've only gotten to hear you talk really about season 3. So it's so fun to hear, like... We're just going to have you back. We have to talk about season 2 when that happens.
And this is not to say that season 3 is also not like an extraordinary piece of storytelling. But yeah, no, season 2, just the way it's constructed with like the reveal in episode 5 and making us think the conflict was one thing and then kind of doing a bait and switch a little bit. Just the whole thing was just so kind of seamlessly running together.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, season 2 is so beautiful. I just was so curious because I feel like most people love season 3 best, and I think there's a great argument for that. But for me, season 2 is just so special. Okay, back to on topic stuff.
All right, I don't think that we can talk about that paternalism and this idea of I know what's right, so I'll tell you what's right, without talking about England. Like, that's what England does, and that's what's so interesting to me is that Flint is saying, fuck England, basically. We can do what we want. But then he's doing the exact same thing that England has been doing all this time. Like, he is saying, and that's what Gates sees when they're having that confrontation in that shack. When Gates says, oh, you're our sovereign now, is this idea that no one can tell another man what his best life is. That is that man's decision to make.
That's true. He's basically fighting paternalism with paternalism.
Yeah, absolutely. Which happens again and again and again in history. So it's very on point. It's something humans are really bad at.
It makes sense once we learn his backstory. And it's that's what makes him so fascinating. He's such a bundle of contradictions.
Yes.
Yes, that is the perfect, that is the absolute perfect description of her. What is it? So Lauren, our friends have a podcasting network called Storywonk, and they just covered the first episode of Black Sails, and Lonnie said, I see everything Flint does and I love him anyway. And I said on Twitter that is basically describes Black Sails.
Yes. I would say more characters than just Flint, but mostly Flint, yes.
Yeah. So I would like to ask this question. This is my personal question because this is just the beginning of this question, but I feel like the last episode, I did raise this in our last episode, but I was curious, Lauren, how you look at this. Like, my big question, my big relationship with Black Sails is I adore Flint. Like, I love him with my heart and soul, and that man does bad things. He's really bad things, and somehow he manages to do bad things in a way that just makes me love him more. And so I was curious if you have the same experience and what you think is the magic. Like, what is this magical being that makes us love him when he does bad things?
It might be Toby Stevens.
Yeah, I was going to say, he just plays so many dimensions and adds so many layers. It's never one-dimensional bad thing, you know?
Right.
Never.
Absolutely.
I completely agree.
Right. It's always
There's
the
always
bad
10
thing.
different things going on.
Exactly. And I love this. I mean, I learned what I understood after my love of the show is that basically I love tragic heroes. And he's like, if there was ever a tragic hero in the world, Flint is that person. But I know it's like he does bad things for a good reason, but it's so misguided, and but ultimately he's kind of really just doing something horrible, even though he thinks and he wants so badly for everyone to think he's doing something good. He breaks my heart.
It is heartbreaking.
So really I asked the question and then I just answered it, but I wanted to hear if you had any other thoughts about it.
No, I also love characters. I'm really drawn to characters who earn my respect. through a mixture of the writing and the performing. That's what I think that's actually why I like Vane and Silver so much. Partly because I started out not liking them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They earned my respect and earned my liking them, and that's why I like them even more. And Flint is that kind of character a little bit. Not that I just liked him, but we just are kind of unsure what to make of him at first.
Yeah.
And just the more we learn about him, the more we develop this kind of odd respect for him.
Yeah. Do you recall, was there a moment when, like, that coin changed for you and you saw him as this force that you were rooting for, as someone that you did respect and love? Or was it a really slow process to get there?
For Flint, I think it was kind of a slow burn. I think this had, although I was very wowed by season 2, episode 5.
Yeah. Yep. I think if there was anybody who was on the fence before then, if you got through that episode and didn't love Flint, then there might be something chemically wrong with you. What about you, Daphne? Do you remember the time when you were like, no, this is my guy?
No, I loved Flint from the very first minute. I think I said that in episode 1.
When he took off the turban.
Yep. No. I was sold on Flint. The thing that's fascinating for my relationship with Flint is that I was sold on him for the first minute, and even from that first episode, it's almost like he's daring me to not love him. That's what I always felt like my experience with Flint was, that he just kept doing bad stuff. Mm-hmm. And I loved him already from the minute I saw him. So he was just daring me all the time to stop loving him. But every single thing he does made me love him more. Yeah. So that was my experience of Flint. Like I'm sure there were moments. Well, I know the moment when I loved Vane. I loved Jack also from the first moment I saw him. Yeah. I loved Max. Eleanor, I honestly didn't pay that much attention to in the beginning. But Flint, that was my relationship, that it was just like love, love, love. Oh, why'd you do that? Okay, I still love you. Oh, why'd you do that? Now I love you more. I can't believe myself for loving you so much.
I think I first began to really care for Flint when he slunk down in front of the door when he first came home and saw Miranda.
Yes.
That was the first time I started to warm to him. And I was like, oh, I care about you. Uh-oh. And then, but the moment that I loved him was when he killed my favorite character. It was when he was in the process of killing Gates and weeping and apologizing. And I was just like, you are broken and messed up, but I love you. And I don't know. It was such a powerhouse of a scene. And the Emmys are dumb. What do you not know about the acting on the show? What is the matter with you?
Oh, my God. I mean, so many of them, but Toby Stevens should have gotten all of the awards, even the first season.
All of the awards. All of them. Just all of the awards. Wow. Yeah. So good.
I was aware of Toby Stevens before that, but I was not that aware of him. Mm-hmm. And he blew me away from the very beginning. Okay. So I feel like this has been fabulous, and I love this. And Lauren, I hope you join us again because it's so much fun having you here.
And thank you again for the magnificent work that you're doing on Inverse and showing everybody how awesome this show is.
And so,
thank you for heralding Black Sails.
I assume you're covering season 4, right? Tell us your
absolutely.
Oh, that's
excellent.
Great. That's great. So everyone, watch all the rest of it, even if you've been only watching along with us, watch all the way through the end of season 3, then go read everything Lauren wrote.
Yes.
And we can all look forward to season 4 together. And Lauren, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you so much for having me. And I feel like we've already stressed this to viewers, but if you are just making your way through the show for the first time and you're curious about any of my actor interviews, I would say Google with extreme caution because there is a lot of spoilery things.
There is. So just watch through the end of season 3. It's not that many episodes.
Yeah. You'll be glad you did.
Oh, because they are super fun. They are also super spoilery for season 3. So you should just go, go watch. Just this weekend, just watch the rest of them, and then you can start over again and catch up to us again, and we'll be all together for season 2.
Right.
So yeah, we're gonna continue, obviously, covering the rest of the seasons until season 4, which is so exciting. Did we have any more Toby Schmitz, or you're done with the Toby Schmitz stuff?
Yeah, this is another little tidbit that Toby Schmitz shared with us. I always imagined Jack had a stint in the Royal Navy, for reasons of escape, dragooned by his own manipulation, perhaps, and that he always did it with the intent of eventually jumping ship into a pirate's life. His accent, I think, is a construction from that time, a regional stab at officers' talk. If it isn't apparent, he has extreme knee-jerk problems with authority. I like to think he always did, even as a kid, in his mercantile Hamlet.
Oh, I love that.
It's so smart. Well, and it's so fun for me. I haven't done acting in a long time, but I always did that kind of thing where, like, you dig back, and it's, to me, that's the fun of it. Like, I never did the what do you call it? The method stuff. Yeah, I don't do that. But I love this idea of digging back and thinking about your character and filling in all of those gaps and rounding them out. And it's what makes Jack Rackham as a character absolutely sing. It's what makes us believe him when we shouldn't. We shouldn't believe this strange, foppish, just out there and zany. He's a zany pirate, and he should throw us out of the show. But it works because Toby Schmitz has put so much thought into who this man is and how to make him a real person for us. That's amazing. That's genius work.
I have to say, I've interviewed a lot of actors in the course of my job, and I would definitely say the Black Sails actors I have interviewed are by far the ones who are the most thoughtful about their characters. You can tell that all of them have put so much thought into who these people are, like an unusual amount for the people I've interviewed.
Oh, I think it totally really shows. Yeah, it really, really shows in the jobs that they're doing. I mean, they're just so engaging and wonderful. And the one thing I wanted to say about Jack, which I don't think I've said, is I feel, and I don't think this is a spoiler, I feel like Jack is the heart of the whole community. Like, that's been my experience of him, and I really love it. And I just wanted to thank Toby Schmitz for writing these notes for our listeners, because that is just so sweet and wonderful.
Amazing.
And thank you, Lauren, for bringing them to us. That's really, really, really terrific. And thank you for joining us.
Mm-hmm. Of course, thanks again for having me. And if any listeners are curious, you can find me on Twitter just at Lauren Sarner, or at inverse.com.
And do. Totally worth it. Lauren's articles are fabulous. Also about Game of Thrones, also about other things. What other shows will you be covering?
I am also really obsessed with the show The Leftovers, even though that's not necessarily in that genre. It's a great show. And I'm going to be covering American Gods when that comes out. Very excited for that.
Yeah. I'm so excited about
Very
that.
excited for that.
Uh-huh. Very cool. Okay, well, we'll keep an eye out for that. So thanks again for listening. From Common Room Radio, I am Liz Stevens.
And I'm Daphne Olive.
Fathoms Deep is a Common Room Radio production. For more information and access to other programs, please visit us at commonroomradio.com. To show your support, pledges of as little as $1 a month can be made to patreon.com/commonroomradio. Join the conversation by using the hashtag #Fathoms Deep and follow us on Twitter at Black Salescast. We ask that you keep your tweets respectful and positive, and please avoid spoilers. If you have more to say, we want to hear it in all its spoiler glory. Email us at podcast@commonroomradio.com with Fathoms Deep in the subject line. Thanks for listening.